What's up, gentlemen? This is Rising Phoenix Podcast, a podcast about how to rise up after your divorce. I'm your host, divorce coach, Michael Rhodes. Let's get into it. Joining me today is Mr. Dale Valor. Dale, let's just jump right into it. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Man, first and foremost, Michael, I'm glad to be here. Listen, anytime I get the opportunity to chop it up, with a fellow podcaster, and obviously we've spoken before, and you were on my podcast. What was that? A couple months ago, 2 or 3 months ago?
About 3, I think. Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And you're returning. This is the second time you'll be on.
Yep. So I always enjoy the opportunity to do something like this, and hopefully, and well, I shouldn't even say hopefully. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that your listeners will be like, one of two things is going to happen. They're going to be either like, "What the fuck am I listening to?" or they're going to be like, "Man, that guy knows what the fuck he's talking about." You know what I mean?
Well, so, I'll make the assumption that it'll be the second one because we're having you back, and I'm excited to have you on to talk about your book, really, and that you just released, which is I'll let you kind of go through that, but we're going to essentially kind of focus on a little bit of the meat of that book and some of the topics in it. So why don't you talk about the book a little bit?
So Inner Game. The book, like you said, it came out very recently. And the reason I wrote that particular book is because I see so many people struggle with, they're like, oh, well, it could be a million different excuses, but we'll just pick a couple, like, oh, well, all women are out for my money, right. Or, you can't trust anybody, like they're just gonna cheat on you or whatever, Yep. And there's all these reasons and rationales and things like that. And I'm not even going to say that it's not necessarily warranted to, sure. To a degree anyway, sure. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But what's the common denominator in every relationship, every date that you've ever been on, anybody that you've ever been interested in? What's the common denominator? It's you. You know what I mean?
Amen.
And so what I find is that a lot of people, guys, that's my audience, but so men specifically in this case, and who I'm talking to, very few know really at the core who they are. Okay. Now you might have some type of vague idea and like, oh, I'm the type of guy that, like I'm chill or I'm energetic or I'm funny or whatever. Okay, cool.
Right.
But that's, that's very surfacey.
Yeah, okay? For sure.
A lot of guys just don't know who they are. Yeah. And second to that, they don't know what they want, right. So it's like, they're good at knowing what they don't want, right. Like, oh, you can't, like, right. Oh, then this is something that kills me. And I know that you've seen this as much as I have, but like if you ever look in the comments section of like my shit, like anybody with Modern Success, the company I'm with, any of the coaches, you look through there and you get a gang of dudes that are like, oh, you can't go approach a girl. That's the fastest way to end up in jail.
Right.
Like, are you approaching the police? Like, like
you have a club in your
jail.
Yeah, exactly.
Like every county jail just must be filled to the brim with guys who went up and talked to a girl. Yeah. Like, come on, give me a break. So what I'm driving at here is this. If you don't know who you are and you don't know what you want, what are you going to end up with? Right? A guy who knows who he is and knows what he wants is a dangerous man. Unfortunately, most guys don't know either, yeah. And so that's really what the book is predicated on to a large part is the fact that, your inner game, let's define that. Okay. Inner game, the way I define it is somebody else might tell you different. I don't know if there's inner game is in the dictionary or not, but if I was to look, if I'm Daniel Webster, I'm writing the dictionary. When I get to the I's and I put inner game in, what I'm putting in is this: the relationship that you have with yourself, you know. And if that relationship with you suffers, if that relationship with you sucks, as an extension, how are all the other relationships in your life going to be?
Yeah.
You can't even have a relationship with you. How are you going to have a relationship with anybody else that's going to be fruitful or fun or exciting or anything like that, you know?
Sure.
So that's my thing is, look, work on yourself. If you know who you are, you know what you want, now you have a starting point. You can start working on the things that you don't like about yourself, and start accepting the things that you can't change about yourself, and start having better self-esteem. Yeah. Start, once you start accepting things you can't change and changing things that you can, not to sound like we're at the AA program here, but
it's solid advice.
Yeah, it is. If once you have that kind of dialed in, now you can start attracting the people that make sense, the women that make sense for you, the women that, like one of the examples that I love is, you get and see guys complaining very often about like, oh, you can't find, I can't find a good woman. Right. I can't find the types of women that I really want to be with. Okay, cool. Where do you go? Oh, I go to the bar, I go to the club. It's like, well, okay. If I'm like, look, Michael, I've been saving my money. I'm going to go get me a Ferrari. Like, I've got the money. I got to go get it. Right. Yeah. And you're like, cool, man, it's going to be awesome. Yeah, it's going to be great. Unfortunately, every time I go to a Chevy dealership, I can't find one. Like, you're going to be like, Dale, why don't you go to where they sell Ferraris? You know what I mean?
Well, that's a great point. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about, God, there's so much here, because I think you're spot on. First of all, I think I say this all the time. If you're not right with yourself, you'll accept whatever, and you're needy, and you're just looking for someone else to sort of soothe your wounds or to make you feel good about yourself. Then you'll take any scrap or crumb you can get your hands on. Like I said this the other day. If you're starving, I'm not talking like, damn, I skipped breakfast starving. I'm talking like you hadn't eaten in 3 days and someone hands you a can of fucking dog food. You're going to eat that shit, right?
Yep.
Right. So, so if you're not starving, if you're not desperate, if you're right with yourself, then you can be more choosy and you can reject what's bad for you. But yep. that's really fucking hard for guys to do. Do you have a recommendation in terms of, obviously divorce is a topic here, but maybe you just got out of a relationship, period. Do you recommend this? And I know everyone's like, oh, everyone's different, but do you recommend any kind of a time period for this sort of inner game work? Do you think 6 months, a year? Like, is there?
I think, well, I mean, like you said, everybody's different, right? Yeah. But on top of that, though, I see a lot of people who, and I get where the mentality comes from, sure. And it's not something that I would suggest is like a negative mindset or anything like that. I understand, but a lot of times what people want to do is they want to kind of build a foundation and then go from there. Okay. And which makes all the sense in the world. However, there's something also to be said about multitasking, right. And so I don't think it's a thing of, it depends on let me take a step back. Sure. Now, if you have a very traumatic experience, like where you really need, to sit down with a therapist or something like that and get things sorted out, okay, I can get behind. All right, but it's just like, hey man, I just broke up with my girlfriend of 3 months, right? And we just didn't get along, right? I'm not gonna be like, bro, you need therapy, right? Right. I'm not going to suggest to that person that they need to take the next year reverse engineer
Sure.
that relationship and see what happened and pick it apart and all that kind of
Right.
thing. Now, there's something to be said for reverse engineering it and picking it
Sure.
apart, but I'm not saying that's all they should do.
Yeah.
What you should do is work on yourself and get out there and start meeting new people, and because here's the thing, you could have what you think is the strongest inner game on planet Earth. Oh, I'm super confident.
Right.
Myself, man, I'm the shit. I'm man, like my self-esteem is through the roof. And man, but a lot of the times that type of mentality and that type of mindset, man, you're nothing but a sunshine soldier, man. Like when the heat's on, because you don't know what the heat is.
Right.
When the heat's on, man, that confidence and that self-esteem and all that kind of stuff goes right out the window a lot of times,
Yeah.
And so that's the way that you can kind of start doing both in building your inner game and your outer game at the same time. So like, I'll give you an example. The way that I structure my in-person boot camps, okay, is it's not like an approach marathon. Okay. Like a lot of coaches, and I'm not suggesting this is wrong, by the way,
right,
but a lot of coaches, what they do is it's just like, go, 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 go. You're like approach,
right. Right.
And there's a place for that for sure.
Right.
But the way that I personally like to do it is doing a debrief after each interaction. So it's more quality over quantity. Now, if you got a guy who's just simply afraid, like to the core of walking up and starting a conversation, yeah, they need that approach machine mentality because they got to numb themselves to that,
right,
and to start having better interactions and things like that. But for a lot of guys, it's like a thing of, I want to get a gauge on how they're feeling about each interaction. And so a guy walks up, starts talking to this girl. As soon as that wraps up, I don't care if it's 3 minutes or 30 minutes, I'm going to have a conversation with him. Okay, where's your head at?
Right.
How do you feel right now? And that way, each individual person in that boot camp, what they can do is they now know what the trigger is. Like, okay, I came out of that interaction and I don't feel good about myself. Okay, well, what happened in that interaction? Well, she really wasn't showing me any kind of like real attention, and it just seemed like they were just kind of tolerating me. And I don't like that. Okay, cool. So here's how to fix that. Okay, and I maybe give them a little something to sort that out. Now that person knows next time something like that happens, it doesn't throw them off for the rest of the evening or the rest of the day or something like that. It's just like, okay, when I feel like this is what I have to do to get myself back to where I need to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I mean, that's a really long-winded way of answering this, but I don't think that, for most guys, it's like a thing of like, okay, get your inner game 100% right, because here's the deal. It's never going to be 100% right.
Amen. Yeah.
Never. So are you just going to keep working on that for infinity? Because like, look, as much as, we could probably look at somebody like Dwayne Johnson, right? Sure. And we could say, man, that guy's arrived.
Right.
He's a movie star, famous wrestler, all the money in the world. Women love him. Right. He's charismatic as hell, like all that. He's arrived. I can almost say, now I don't know this for sure because I've never talked to him, but I can almost say with 100% certainty that if you were to ask him, has he arrived? He would tell you no. He'd be like, nah, man, there's so much stuff I want to do. There's so many things I got on my plate that I want to get to and all that kind of stuff. Nah, man, I'm not even half done with what I'm trying to do. Yep. And so if he hasn't arrived, you certainly haven't. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I can't argue that at all. I think the work, we talk about doing the work. I talk about this all the time. I think it's an ongoing, never-ending process. And that's not to say that you're a broken, fucked up human being, although I think we all are to certain degrees. It's just to say that nobody's perfect and we all have shit to work on, because this type of stuff, this work, and we're going to cover some of the self-esteem, confidence, and loneliness, things that guys deal with. Solving these issues are lifelong things, typically, and they don't happen overnight. If that was the case, I wouldn't have a podcast because everybody would be fucking fixed and perfect, and you wouldn't have a job because nobody would be ever breaking up because they're all perfect and everything's good. And that's just not possible. But I do want to sort of hone in on sort of around what you're talking about. And that is self-esteem, because I see this a lot, especially guys that get out of divorce or go through a divorce, and they're and I can tell you, I speak because I know your self-esteem is shattered. Your self-worth is in the fucking toilet because the person that you loved is basically saying you're not good enough anymore. Along with also, you're going to lose access to your kids half the time, potentially more, and you're going to lose a whole fucking lot of money, and continuously perhaps. There's a lot of negatives there that really kick you in the balls and make you sort of look in a mirror and go, I'm a giant piece of shit. So my question, we shared this gift of gab, my friends. My long-winded question is, how does a guy build some self-esteem up after any kind of scenario that just kicks him in the nuts?
All right, so let's take a look at this. So, the short answer is this: if you want better self-esteem, do esteemable acts.
Amen.
Now that sounds maybe a little overly simplistic, but that doesn't make it wrong. So here's the deal. I'll give you an example. So my birthday, okay, not different than divorce, totally get it, but just follow me here.
I got you.
All right. My birthday is the day after Christmas, okay? And it is about the worst time that an individual can have a birthday. I call it birthmas, because it's just this homogenous day, or homogenous 48 hours of Christmas and birthday.
Yeah.
So what happens? As a kid, it was fine. My parents made a really good effort to distinguish the 2 days, okay? Right. But as an adult, man, my birthday gets glossed right over. I mean, like, first of all, it's the day after Christmas. Like, like Christmas was just yesterday.
Yeah.
Secondly, I'm in Detroit, man. The weather sucks around that time of year, so people just don't really want to go do things, Thirdly, New Year's is less than a week away. All right. Fourthly, because of Christmas, people are either out of town or they've got family in town. So outside of social media, like, I may get 3 or 4 texts of somebody saying happy birthday. It just gets, and I get it. I don't take it personal. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But it just gets put on the back burner, So, my birthday has never been a big thing. So now I could sit back and say, well, if I was more impactful in people's lives, if I was, if I contributed more, if I was special, it wouldn't matter. Like, people would reach out to me. People would come to a birthday party. People would, go out of their way if, I really meant something to them. I could say that.
Sure.
But instead, I choose to reframe it. Okay. I understand why. Yeah. So is me being here on planet Earth, is my purpose to just get things on my birthday? No. Right. You know what I mean? My purpose, why I was born, the day of my birth, I choose to look at it like this. Let me make a reminder to myself why I'm here, So on my birthday, generally what I'll do is, say if I'm at the grocery store, I'll just randomly pay for somebody's food, for their groceries, nice. If I'm in line at McDonald's or something, I'll just get the car behind me. When me and my wife, when we go out to dinner, I'll just pick a table and I'll tell the server, I got their bill. Please don't tell them that I paid for it, know? And that's to remind myself that I'm here to give value, And so it's not about me getting stuff and getting attention. I'm here to give it, So that being said, somebody that's coming out of divorce that's like, man, my self-esteem is just in the dumps, and I got all these mounting things to deal with now, and I can't see my kids as much as I would like to, and all this and that. That's none of that is a commentary on you as an individual. What that is a commentary on your circumstances. Now, let's call it what it is. Not every guy coming out of a divorce is necessarily blame free. You know what I mean? Like maybe
Very
there's some
true.
things that you did to propel that situation.
Sure.
Maybe there's some bad decisions you made.
Yep.
But even in those decisions, you are not your actions. Okay. You are you. The actions that you do are the actions that you do. Okay. So what I mean by that is like, look, depending on the perspective of a person, a serial killer could be a good guy.
Right.
I know that sounds crazy, but look, serial killers hold the door open for old ladies too.
Right.
And that old lady looks at that serial killer. Now she doesn't know he's a serial killer, but
right.
What a nice guy.
Right.
You know what? I really appreciate that person. My day is better because that guy opened the door for me. Well, little does she know he opened the door because he's going in there to grab somebody to take him back to his house and lock him up and kill him. You know what I mean? So, now from that person's vantage point, the guy kidnapped, not such a nice guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the actions are not indicative of who you are as an individual. What defines who you are as an individual, and that's what kind of going back to what we were talking about before, knowing who you are.
Sure.
Once you really know who you are, now you can have a moral compass, a code of ethics that is in line and congruent with you. Now, if you do an action, because we all do it, from time to time, we all do actions that are contrary to who we are as a person,
Absolutely.
But at least you can define that. And so like I did that and it was wrong and I apologize. Okay. But that's not you as a person. That was just, I guess, error in judgment or whatever the case might be.
Yep. So
to define who you are, and by the way, I got a breakdown of an exercise to get this figured out at freegiftfromdale.com, which you can also download the first chapter of my book for free. You know what I mean? Just to kind of get an idea of what my writing style and if it's something that speaks to you. And even if it speaks to you just a little bit, man, it's something that it's something to check out, because if that just speaks to you a little bit, that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole lot under that. We've all seen those memes, right? Like, here's the tip, and then it like goes down forever. And that's what it is.
Yeah. Because
defining who you are as an individual, man, everything is predicated on that. Everything. Yeah. And one of the ways to really lock that in and really get a handle is even just defining. How do you even know what a person is at the core, who they are at the core, right? Yep. So the way I look at it is there's a few fundamental elements here. You got nature and nurture, okay? So, nature, you're predisposed to certain genetic things. If you come from a family of alcoholics, if you're not watching yourself, you'll probably be one too. If you got good genes, it's genetic, right? Your parents probably had good genes, right? So, so that's one part of it. Another part of it is the nurture part. Say you got two puppies, okay? Puppy A gets raised by the same litter, okay? Right. So the genetics are the same, essentially. Yep. So puppy A goes and lives with this family. And this family takes care of it, loves the dog, takes it for walks, plays with it. What's going to happen? It's going to be a good dog. Yeah. Puppy B, on the other hand, gets adopted by somebody who could really care less, leaves it outside all the time, never pays attention to it. That dog is going to be the scourge of the neighborhood, it's going to be barking all the time, biting people, you know what I mean?
Right.
And just simply on the way that it was raised.
Right.
Another thing, environmental, being a product of your environment, the example I like here is like this. I was raised, this is funny to say, but, I was raised primarily with and around Black people, So that being said, that clearly influenced the way that I present myself, even the way that I talk and my tastes and interests and things like that, because of my foundational years growing up around who I grew up around. Now, if I was raised like way out in the sticks,
right,
I probably would be a different person than I am right now.
right,
I might like mudding and
right,
country music. You know what I mean? But but I didn't grow up like that. So it's
right,
it's just not my thing,
right,
So lastly, your intrinsic value. The things, the personality traits, the qualities, characteristics about you that you respect and like about yourself. And by knowing that, now you know what your worth is. You know what you bring to the table. And so by knowing that, when you go talk to some girl or whatever, and she's just not with it, look at all this dope shit that she missed out on.
right.
Now there's something to be said about how to communicate that.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, if she doesn't want to get on board with everything that you're bringing to the table, her loss.
Yeah. So I think what we're talking about is really knowing yourself and knowing your values, right? It's just something that I coach. I think that I learned from a program I went through. It's really important. You know who you are, you know your values specifically. Like for instance, one of mine is contribution. I like to contribute. And so obviously that's what I'm doing with this, right? Contributing to the world. And so when I take actions aligned with that value, it does increase the self-esteem. So it is about, I think you said, taking, things that provide, actions that provide esteem. It's really about taking action, but making sure that those actions are lined up with who you are. Then you can start feeling a little bit better about yourself. But I think, and the other component of you're talking about sort of your environment is being mindful of who you surround yourself with. What content are you consuming? What are you doing when you have free time? Those kinds of things also can, because if you're someone who likes to connect with people and you're staying in your home, then you're not taking an action that is in alignment with your values. So if you start getting yourself out there, you're doing things to connect. I want to talk a little bit about this a little bit more in depth in terms of connection and loneliness and stuff like that. Then once again, you're going to raise your self-esteem because you're taking action that are in line exactly with who you really are. That's kind of what we're saying, right?
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. That's what makes you feel good about yourself, is when you're being genuine, when you're being sincere, authentic, congruent with who you are, like that's what makes you feel good about yourself. That's that self-esteem, and if you're doing everything that's contrary to those factors, of course you don't feel good about yourself, and unfortunately a lot of people don't do that, and it's so easy, man. Like it's easy, but not easy. Let me put it this way. It's easy, but it's not simple. All right. So it's easy to go out there and contribute and give value and things like that. But it's not simple, and because you have to actually do the action steps to do it. You know what I mean? It's not, you can't raise your self-esteem by sitting up doing nothing.
Right.
You got to go out there. If you got a kind word for somebody, man, look, check this out. Quick story. So I don't know, man, probably 6 months ago, something like that. I'm at the grocery store, and I'm putting something in my cart, and this guy walks up to me, and it was very clear that he was like a homeless dude. It's very obvious to me. And he comes up and he says something to me. I don't even really remember what he said, but I complimented him on something. I was like, dude, I can't even really remember what it was, but I complimented him on something. And that guy almost started tearing up, man. Sure. He was like, do you know that I haven't had like a kind word or somebody compliment me on something in years, and like that simple gesture, it meant nothing for me. Sure. It meant the world for that dude, but I come out of that like feeling better about myself, that think about this. You literally literally have the power to impact people's lives, their day, whatever. You have that power within your hands. Unfortunately, most people don't access that power. They'd rather keep their hands in their pockets and not deal with anybody than, give somebody a helping hand, say something nice to them, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well, it's true. I think, and I think it's actually a nice reminder for myself, because I've been struggling with doing this podcast recently. It's been almost 3 years, and not so much this stuff and coaching and running Facebook groups and all that, but other areas of my life have become very stressful, particularly my real job. And it makes me sort of question sort of everything, and try and find sources of the stress. I feel like I know it's the job, but I can't, it pays the bills, right? What I do here makes me feel good, but it doesn't pay the bills. And sometimes I look and go, well, maybe I should stop doing this, or maybe I'm not helping as much as I think, or maybe I'm not making a difference, or maybe I'm wasting my time. And so I question myself and what I'm doing. And of course I put that in episodes. I talk about it because that's just kind of who I am. And of course I get good feedback. I don't do it for that reason, but it does happen.
Yeah.
But it's still, it doesn't, it doesn't hit home always, because those compliments and nice words smack up against, my inner child and my self-esteem, and I sort of discard them in a way. So it's nice to hear reminders that one kind word, or one gesture of camaraderie, or you're not alone connection, it can really go a long way in someone's life. And I think I forget that myself. I think we all do, because I think we're all egocentric, right? Not good, bad, or indifferent. As humans, we're egocentric. But I want to talk about loneliness, because this is something, brother, I see it so very much. And I think the question is, what do guys do when they, after a breakup, after a divorce, and they lost their family, they lost some friends through the divorce, and because everyone picks a side and all that kind of shit, and they're lonely. What do they do? What do you recommend? Like, how do you combat loneliness?
Can I circle back to one thing you said?
Yeah, sure.
Before jumping into that.
Sure.
So, my thought based on what you were just saying about work and stress and this and all that kind of thing. If I was to ask you, Michael, what is your purpose? What would you tell me?
I wish I had I know the answer that I should.
Don't give me. Don't give me the right answer. Give me the real answer.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, you alluded to it earlier. You said contribution. Okay.
Sure. I mean, that's one of my values. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So now here's the thing. I understand that work can be stressful. Who doesn't know that? But here's the thing. I would, and this is just my own personal take. My thought is that if it was me, I would double down on what you're doing on this side of things, with what you're doing here. Instead of saying, well, maybe I should take my foot off the gas because of, work stress. What are you really essentially saying? You're saying that stressful work is more important than you contributing and being impactful in people's lives. I would rather do this stressful thing, because that's the only thing else left to do, right, is do that, than do the thing that is actually helping people and impacting their lives and making their lives better. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you don't know who you necessarily affect, because you don't hear from everybody.
No, and that's a weird thing too. And I'm glad we're kind of having this conversation because it's timely, but I just got a message on, so Spotify, I guess now they're letting people comment on, I don't know how recent this has been, but I got an email this morning. Someone commented on a recent episode on Spotify, and I didn't, that's never happened before. I don't know if that's a new thing. It seems like it's a new thing, but anyway, I got a really nice comment from someone. And it kind of reminded me of that. But I think for me, I sort of look at everything in totality and feel drained and go, well, what can what can I cut out? But to your point, I mean, there's nothing better than for me than knowing that I'm making an impact. Like,
yeah, but
I'm getting.
Here's the thing: you don't know what you don't know.
I don't know that. Sorry, I got lost in my own thoughts. That's what I wanted to talk about. So, why is it that? And this is definitely a rabbit hole. Sorry, fellas. Why is it that people don't comment and interact as much? Like I probably have. I have 1,000 followers across. It's more, but across the ones that I know, across Apple, Google, and Spotify, and the comments are few and far between. Why do you think that is? Why do men like or people, but mostly men, obviously, for my audience? Why do people not like comment or reach out more or whatever?
Well,
just out of curiosity.
I mean, it could be a litany of different reasons, but I think the main ones are, either they don't know what to comment. They know they liked it,
Right.
but they don't really know how to articulate necessarily what they would like to say.
Sure.
Two, another reason is a lot of times, man, and I think this is very common of men, is they don't engage on social medias and things like that as much as women do. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like for instance, man, I'll give you a case in point. Like, just before getting on here, I probably watched 3 or 4 YouTube videos. I didn't comment on any of them, and I enjoyed them all.
Yeah, that's true. I do the same. I do the same.
You have that.
Yeah.
Then another thing is, in terms of reaching out to people, like I'm a listener and I want to reach out and talk to you.
Right.
Well, maybe they're very introverted, or they feel like they're bothering you.
True.
So it could be any number of reasons. But one thing that this happened to me a little while back, a guy sends me a DM. I had no idea who this dude was. And he sends me a DM, and he was just like, hey, man, I just want to thank you. I've been married now 2 years, and my wife's about to give birth in a week. And, I met her through following your content.
Wow.
And I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I've never seen that name before,
right.
And, so you don't know who you're impacting. It's like, he said he'd been following me for years. You know what I mean? Like,
doesn't that make it difficult sometimes? Again, rabbit holes, fellas, but we'll get back to the topics, but this is for me, damn it. Doesn't that make it difficult sometimes when you put yourself out there and you don't get that feedback? Doesn't that make it really hard sometimes?
It can become, I think for a lot of people, it can become frustrating, because they're like, man, I'm putting in all this work and I'm doing all this, and like, and I'm seeing minimal return on, attention, the currency of attention, and the thing is that really, man, one, that boils down to comparison, like, true. I'm seeing this guy over here who's doing something similar to me, and like his shit's blowing up. Why isn't mine?
Right.
Which can be a fair question if he's doing something differently that you're not doing, like that it could be just one simple click, and he's just doing something different, So it's a fair question. But on the other hand, comparison's the thief of all joy, man. If you're like, I know, because I think we talked about it on my podcast, like you had just gotten over the 100 mark, if I remember correctly. Yeah. And, like, man, and I know that over the course of from episode 1 to episode 100, I know that you have seen growth.
Oh, 100%. No question.
So like if today's growth is better than yesterday's growth, that's a win. And you really only need one, man. Like, the way I look at it is, it's kind of like, it's kind of like baseball. The more at bats that you get, even if you're a poor hitter, not suggesting you're a poor hitter, but, but the more at bats you get, the better the odds are sooner or later something's going to happen. Either you're going to get on base, you're going to get a hit, you're going to hit a home run. Something's going to happen. The more times up at bat that you are, man, you only need one thing to just break through the fray. You know what I mean? once that one podcast episode, once
Right.
that one social media post, once that one thing pops, now you'll start seeing it really start to take off. I remember my last Instagram account that I had before I got hacked. You
Yeah.
know, like, man, I was working that thing to death, you know, like trying to get some momentum, trying to get an
Sure.
audience on there and things like that, much like anybody else.
Yeah.
And so one day I had a post that, man, for whatever reason, like, I don't know why, it was no different or better or worse than anything else. Man, it just took off, you know? And like within a week, like I went from like 5,000 followers to like 15,000. Like the the notification, you know, like when you click the notification part,
Yeah.
it looked like a stock ticker or something. It was just like, oh, like I couldn't even keep up with it. You know, it was just like, it just kept moving and rolling, moving and rolling. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? You know, that post just, it had like 10,000 hearts and like, and then
Damn.
from there on out, everything that I was posting, now maybe didn't get to that level,
Sure.
but it was 100 times more than what my average posting was, you know? And so that's what I mean is it only takes one thing for it to pop. And then you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a marathon, right? It's a longevity game. That's certainly a part of it. And I got to do things differently. There's some things that I should and need to do differently and all that. But anyway, we're very much a rabbit hole. So let's get back to the topic of loneliness. What do you recommend? Because I see this all the time, and I experience it a little bit, but I don't. It doesn't bother me as much as it used to, or I'm more comfortable with who I am, or whatever it is. It just doesn't. It's not a focus of mine, but some guys, it is their focus. It's like, I'm just so lonely. So what do you say to that guy? What are some things to recommend?
Let's diagnose why you're lonely to begin with, right? Because, man, you know, we're creatures of habit. We look for patterns in things. Like, why do we freak out when we don't know what's going on? It's because we don't know what the outcome's going to be. We don't know what's happening. It's a situation that we're not used to, you know? And so, but if it's a situation like, you know, you go into your job, you've been there a million times before, it's nothing. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, but for the first day that you walked in, you're probably nervous, anxious, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's because it wasn't a habit yet. It wasn't a pattern. So if you're lonely because you're coming out of divorce, or you just, you know, got out of a relationship or whatever, there's a void. You know, like, you're used to this other person being a part of your life that isn't there, you know? So now it throws you off kilter, right? Because that's what you're used to. And now it's not happening. So the way to, and I'm a big advocate of owning how it is that you feel, not being resistant to it. Okay. You know, like a lot of times guys, when it comes to things like loneliness, you know, they're trying to resist the loneliness because they're like, one, it doesn't feel good, but two, I shouldn't even be feeling like this. I'm a bitch. I don't want to be a bitch.
Right.
You know, so I push that away.
Yeah.
Well, all you're really doing by pushing it away, it's kind of like this. Say you're walking towards me, right? And like you're walking like almost like I'm not even there. Like walking right at me. And I put my hand up, right? Bam, right in the middle of your chest. But you keep walking, but you're not going anywhere because my hand's right there, right? Sooner or later, my arm's going to get tired. You know what I mean? And all that resistance that I had put up, now when I put my hand down, now you're going to fall into me. You know what I mean? Because just physics, you know? So, being resistant to it and feeling bad about feeling bad, and then feeling bad about feeling bad about feeling bad, and then feeling all you're doing is you're making a like a negative loop in your head. You know what I mean? That's all you're doing.
Yep.
is creating a loop. I feel bad about feeling bad about feeling bad. I feel bad about feeling bad about feeling bad. I feel bad, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And
Oh yeah.
that's not going to be helpful.
No.
And so to alleviate that loneliness, if you're lonely, you're like, I got nobody around, you know, like maybe we'll just say, for instance, a guy, you know, he moves to a different state, you know, maybe closer to her. She wanted to live closer to her family or something, whatever.
Yes.
And so they go to a different state. They're 1,000 miles away from what they're used to and things like that. Things fall apart, but, you know, they've got this house and, you know, he's got a job. So he can't just be like, well, I'm out of here. You know what I mean? Like maybe they got kids and he doesn't want to be away from, you know, that far away from his kids. So there's any number of reasons could make that happen. Right. So if you're going through something like that, you know, first and foremost, to alleviate that loneliness, I think it's smart to start getting involved with stuff. You know, there's a website, you're probably familiar with it, but maybe some guys aren't, called meetup.com.
Oh, yeah.
All right. I'm a huge advocate of that website. You know, like whatever your interests are, you should, if you live in a big enough city, you should be able to find whatever it is that you're looking for. You know what I mean? Whether that's golf outings, wine tasting events,
right,
working on cars, board game nights, you know, whatever your get down is, you'll be able to find it. And even if it isn't there, man, that's even a better opportunity because you can start it. And now once you started it, you're the leader. You're the de facto alpha, if you will. You know what I mean? Like everybody has to come to you if they want to be a part of that group. If you organize an outing, doing something, people have to talk to you. You know, you're the straw that stirs the drink here. And so what are you really doing? You're building a social circle. You're building a network. Your net worth is what your network is. You know, and if you're around people that are high value, you know, like don't just go to the bar because you're lonely. Right. You know, you're just around a bunch of other lonely people. You know what I mean? Like that's not a recipe for success. You know, like that's just going to be a bitch fest. You know, everyone just complaining about their problems. You know, so get around high value people. When I say high value, I don't necessarily mean money. I'm just saying they got things going on in their life. Their life is together. They're fun. They're outgoing. They like to do stuff, you know, like high value. Okay. So start getting around those people. Meetup.com is a great way to do that, you know? And then, you know, you may have the person that suggests like, well, you know, I'm cool. I've got friends and everything. I'm just lonely when it comes to the dating department, you know, like I want to get back out there and things like that, but I don't even really know where to start. I'm lonely. And a lot of these guys, what happens is they're like, okay, well, you know, enough time has went by. Let me, you know, I got a little bit of baggage or whatever, but who don't? So I'm gonna get out here. I'm gonna jump on Bumble and Hinge and, you know, see what happens. And then what inevitably happens is they have zero success on the dating app. And then they're like, you know, oh, well, you know, maybe a friend of a friend will hook me up or something. And then that doesn't happen. And then they're just like, well, now we're back to square one, self-esteem in the toilet. I'm a piece of shit, you know, like apparently I'm not worthy enough for any kind of love or attention. You know, and that's not even it. That goes back again. You are not your actions. Look, if your dating life is suffering and you're feeling lonely, you know, if you're the kind of guy that anytime you're out somewhere at the mall or whatever, and you're seeing a couple that's holding hands together and it just feels like a big old knife twist in your gut, you know what I mean? If you're that guy, then why not go into, when you're starting to get back into dating, why not do it from a vantage point of knowing what you're doing, knowing how to set up a dating profile? Right. You know, like we've all seen the memes. I don't know. I assume you probably have, but you know, like the old guy selfie, you know, like the 60-year-old on Tinder and it's like this angle, you know what I mean? And they're just like, looking at the camera like, yeah, what results do you think that you're going to get?
Right.
Like, that picture's horrible,
Well,
like,
and that stuff always kind of baffles me a little bit because, I mean, I understand it, but like, gosh, Google is a thing, right? Just use that at the very least. If you're like, how to set up a dating profile, you can Google that. I'm sure you can get lots of tips and stuff, but
sure.
I'm always sort of struck by that guys sort of giving half efforts and expecting like full results. It's
Right.
kind
No
of silly.
doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in what, like, okay, think about it like this. Say you go to a job interview, right? And you're looking like you look in that Tinder profile picture. You go in there looking and acting like how you were presenting yourself in that picture.
Right.
Man, you ain't getting that job.
Right.
Like,
right.
What so if you're not going to get that job, what makes you think that a girl's going to be like, oh yeah, let's go? Right. You know what I mean? Like, so make no mistake, man, you are a walking billboard to planet Earth. Unfortunately, sad but true, people make snap judgments, but it's also human nature. I'd rather deal with human nature than deal with what should or shouldn't be. I'd rather deal with the reality. The reality is people make snap judgments. I do it, you do it.
Sure.
Anybody listening to this doesn't,
Absolutely.
And so think about it. If you're driving down the street, right? On one side of the street, you got a guy, chest out, shoulders back, chin up, confident stride, and he's moving with purpose. He's got somewhere to be, right? On the other side of the street, you got this guy, hand in his pockets, looking down, walking all slow, kicking the ground. You know what I mean? You're like, well, what happened to this dude? Like, his dog die or something? Like, what? Like, now, the kicker is maybe the confident looking guy is the most unconfident guy on planet Earth. And the guy over here that looks depressed, maybe he just won the lottery. You know what I mean? I don't know. But the thing is, but by the way that they're presenting themselves, I know that I would rather be friends with the confident stride guy than the guy that's just, trudging along, kicking rocks, like, and we all do that. So if, like, whether it's something on like a dating app or in person, maybe you go to an event, maybe a conference for work, a birthday party, or you're just simply going out for the night, like, hey, look, the way that you present yourself, that's how people are going to take you, And so if you're not presenting yourself in the best light, that's something that you got to work on. It's not, and again, it's not you. Like, I see people in my comment section all the time. It's like, oh, well, you wouldn't be as successful with dating and stuff like that if you were a big fat guy like me. And I'm like, okay, one, I'm like 30 pounds overweight, so I don't know what you're talking about. But two, guess what? Great news, man. That's something you can work on. If you think that you're not getting the dates that you want because you're a big fat guy, that's something you can change.
Absolutely.
So if you think that's the problem, fix it.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing, like, it's not going to hurt you. True. You know what I mean? Like, even if you don't get any dates because you got thinner, at least your health is better, if nothing else.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
So,
one of the other things that sort of popped in my head that I think would be good to touch on is rejection. So if we're putting ourselves out there in conjunction with working on self-esteem. So in other words, part of the assignment or whatever, or the goal is to just get out there and like you were saying earlier, like approach to varying degrees or whatever. But obviously when you do that, regardless of how frequent or what the intent is, whether it is to learn or whether it is to actually get some dates, you're going to get rejected, right? You're not everybody's cup of tea, right? I mean, there's a whole lot of folks that find certain people attractive that blow my fucking mind. So, right. I mean, everybody has their thing, right? Everybody has their thing. And so it's inevitable you're going to get rejected. So I guess the question for me is sort of a two-parter. One is it going into it, being mindful that you could be rejected, is that a part of it? I'm assuming that it probably is. Is that something you teach? And then two is, what do you do afterwards? Do you analyze that rejection, or do you just move on? Like, when you work with guys, what is your recommendation around rejection?
Great question. So firstly, I think it's much like a lot of things in life, man, it's a mental reframe. You know, like I tell people all the time, I never get rejected. I don't get rejected.
Right.
Does that mean I date every girl I talk to? Of course not. Right. You know what I mean? Right. All I'm doing is screening. Okay, that's it. I'm screening if this is a person that I would want to spend any amount of time with.
Yeah.
Okay, because you don't know until you know, right? True. Like, okay, here's this pretty girl over here. Okay, what do I know about her? Well, I know that she's attractive looking. I know that much, you know. What would she know about me walking up to her? Nothing. You don't even know my name. You know what I'm saying? I don't know her name. But say, like, okay, I'm going to go talk to this very attractive girl. Turns out her breath stinks like rotten fish. You know, like,
right.
I don't want to spend time with that person. You know what I mean? True. So now if a girl, like, if she's blowing me off or whatever, same thing. That to me, that's like rotten fish, man. I don't want to spend time with somebody who doesn't want to spend any time with me.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not that I got rejected. I just screened. Okay, she's not for me.
Yeah.
Fine. You know, another way to look at it too is it's a learning experience. You know, I'm not getting rejected. I'm just learning to see what I could do differently next time. If you treat the world as a social laboratory, then what happens is, you know, it enables you to do experiments, you know, and do all experiments work out? No. You know what I mean? Not at all. But in doing so, you're learning on what not to do in order to know what to do, you know? And so if, for instance, you go and you go up and start talking to 10 different women, okay? And of those 10 times, 7 of them, they, you know, made an excuse to leave or just wasn't, you know, you lost them at some point, you know? And if you can pinpoint where that, like, man, you know what? Every time I say or do this, it just seems like it just dissipates.
Yeah.
Okay, now you know not to do that thing, you know? Yeah. So because you have data points to work off of. Yeah. So that's the second part of the question. Yeah, take a look and, like, yes, move on, but also take a look at, like, what am I doing consistently that is things just aren't working out.
Right.
Conversely, what am I doing that is working?
Right.
You know? Yeah. So, you know, like I see guys that'll be like, oh, well, you know, I can't even approach a girl because, you know, every time I do, I walk up and I say hi, they, you know, like they don't pay me no mind.
Right.
It's like, okay, maybe don't say hi. How about that?
Right.
Right. How about say something else? Anything else, because I isn't working for you.
Yeah.
You know, or, you know, they walk up like all unconfident looking, shoulders sunken in and stuff. And like, like, what do you expect the girl to do? You know, like, so yeah, maybe straighten up, maybe present yourself in a better light, you know, like, so there's a lot of things to look at, but at the end of the day, it's like, okay, what isn't effective? Let's get rid of that. What is effective? Okay, let's accentuate that.
Yeah, no, agreed. I think it's sort of around, you know, sort of being mindful, right? Being aware, being, you know, noticing the things you're doing, and no, I don't want to say, you know, analyze it to the nth degree, but you got to take a look at what you're doing and whether or not there's anything that's being effective or not, because you're right. If I think we kind of said this earlier, you know, if nothing changes essentially. Like if you keep doing the same things, then the same things are going to keep happening. So you sort of have to pay attention to what you're doing and how you're doing in order to make some kind of determination. But brother, I want to thank you. This has been great. I can't believe it's been an hour already. It doesn't.
I know, right?
So I want to 2 more things. The words of wisdom question, but let's I want to put you on the spot a little bit, but also give you an opportunity to sort of pitch the book. Who is this book for, and why should someone pick it up?
All right, so here's the deal. Inner game, how to fix your dating life by fixing the relationship you have with you. If you feel like that you're the type of person that, falls into the category of self-sabotage, or maybe you've dealt with a lot of trauma in your past, and I'm not going to define what trauma is for you. For everybody it's different, but if you feel like that you've been through traumatic experiences, if you buy into that, into like a negative monologue inside your own head, it's funny. A lot of times people, because they thought what they thought, they think that's the truth.
Right.
I thought it, so therefore it must be true. My response to that is, oh, okay, cool. So you've never been wrong about anything.
Right.
So just because you think something doesn't necessarily make it true, right?
Yep.
So if you're buying into that, if you're suffering with self-esteem, if you're suffering with self-confidence, if you're suffering with self-discipline, you can't set boundaries. You fall into the nice guy trap, And by the way, I saw your post about Robert.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you. I was gonna bring that up. That's all thanks to you, my friend.
Oh, dope. Seriously?
Well, you gave me the email, which maybe it's out there, but I hit it up, and then you I think your comment was, I was persistent. That's how I got it. And I was like, all right, well, I guess I got to be persistent here. So thank you, my friend. So that's actually, I'm recording that on Saturday morning. Him and I are going to.
Dope. Yeah. Super good dude, man.
I'm excited. Very excited.
But yeah, congratulations for that. Because great host, great book, all that stuff. But anyway, but if you're the type of guy that falls into that nice guy trap, anything like that, where you are shooting yourself in the foot and you are holding yourself back from having not only the type of relationships that you want, but I mean, look, this falls into health, wealth, and relationships, So if professionally you have issue with negotiating out for a pay raise, if you have difficulty confronting that coworker that's taking advantage of you, anything like that, man, this is not just for dating. I mean, it skews that way for sure. Yeah. But this is fundamental as a part of life. You know what I mean? Like, these are things to help you improve your life to a degree that's scalable. I mean, every chapter has an action step,
Nice.
And like, if you're not going to do the action steps, then don't get the book. Plain and simple, like, yeah, it's great to have the information, but what good is that information going to do you if you're not, if you're not implementing it into your life, So, yeah, I mean, that's who it's for. It's anybody, well, men specifically, but, anybody that is going through anything like that, and they just feel unsure of themselves. They don't know where they're going, and they feel rudderless. And they like, hey, maybe you woke up one day at 45 years old and you don't recognize the person anymore. Like, man, that's who the book is for.
Yeah, awesome. Where can people find the book, my friend?
It's on Amazon. I'll get you the link.
Okay, nice. And then as far as you and socials and websites, and how can people best get in touch with you?
The best way to get in touch with me is at freegiftfromdale.com. Okay. That's the best place.
Awesome. Well, again, thanks for doing this, man. And as you know, the last question I ask everybody is, what words of wisdom would you impart to a man who is just beginning his divorce journey?
Man, like, are you, wait, let me just make sure I'm clear. So are you saying like they just got divorced, or they're in the process of getting divorced?
Good question. I think someone who just started the process.
Just started the process. Okay. My words of advice to that person is, don't let the circumstances define you. It's not a commentary on you as a person. It's a commentary on your situation. Situations change. Situation, like, man, if you're having a great day, guess what? Your time's coming, man. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah,
you're gonna have a bad day sooner or later. It's just a matter of time. It's the ebb and flow. You know what I'm saying? The situation is gonna change. It may feel, and maybe is, super life altering, but at the end of the day, you are the one that is in control of your actions inside of the life that you have. You have the wherewithal, you have the power to be able to make that life better. Now, it might go down a little bit. You're not happy about how things are going. But guess what? You have the agency to change that. If I fall in a hole, am I going to be like, well, I guess I live here now? You know what I mean? No, I'm going to climb out of it to improve my situation.
Yeah. Amen. Again, thanks, brother, for doing this. I really appreciate
thank you,
it.
Man.
We will definitely do it again sometime, and we'll stay in touch. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no doubt. That's what's up, man. Thank you again for having me on. And yeah, man, super appreciate it.
Yeah, man, you're welcome. All right, take care.
You got it. All right. Peace.
Thank you so much for watching and or listening. Since my separation in July of 2019, I have done an incredible amount of work on myself. I've had many different therapists, life coaches, and went through different programs. I've taken all that I've learned and put it into my own program called Forged by Fire. If you are interested in having me help you navigate your divorce, please hit my website, risingphoenixdivorcecoach.com. I look forward to working with you.